the department has submitted some exhibits to the court. The first exhibit that I have that I did not provide to counsel are copies of certified copies of all the prior orders, and ask that those be tendered into evidence and made a part of the record. Then I have a copy in lieu of the original of the putative father registry, which has been marked as defects exhibit number 2, showing that inquiry having been made to the Georgia putative father registry and no one having registered as the putative father of the child, and asked that that be tendered into evidence and made a part of the record. Same with a copy of the child's birth certificate, Your Honor. That's been marked as defects exhibit number 3, and that is again a copy in lieu of the original, and I'm asking that that be tendered into evidence and made a part of the record as well. And then the final preliminary one, Your Honor, is the defects exhibit number 4 for identification purposes, which is a copy of the publisher's affidavit showing that publication having been made upon the mother and the unknown putative father and any other unknown biological fathers of the child, and ask that the publisher's affidavit be tendered into evidence and made a part of the record. And I should note that is a copy because we've had this discussion before. Apparently the Herald and all the other papers are sending us those via email and not giving us the originals. So that's a copy in lieu of the original again. And then, Your Honor, with regards to the court making an inquiry as to the file on this matter, publication on this matter ran once a week for 4 weeks, with the final date of publication being May 3rd of 2023. Well, let me go back before I do that. I would ask that the court find that the parents of this child having been properly served with notice of this termination of parental rights petition by the publication that was run once a week for 4 weeks, with the last hearing date being May 3rd of last publication date being May 3rd, 2023.
Service by publication has been perfected. It's more than 30 days after the date the ad last ran.
The other thing I need to make the inquiry of is, Your Honor, that the putative father was placed on notice of his requirement to file a petition to legitimate in this court, or of notice of having filed in another court within 10 days or 30 days, whatever it is. The last date of publication, which was, again, as I said, May 3rd. So that would have had to have been filed by no later than June 2nd of this year. And I don't believe there's been any, but I would just ask the court to make a check of the file, both for the previous file and the TPR file, to see if there were any petitions to legitimate filed.
When did you file your TPR?
I don't know. Look that up, Your Honor. I don't remember.
Well, I'm looking for something else, so you could be looking that up. The clerk says March 31. I'm just trying to decide how far back to go in the file.
I'm going to double check, because yes, March 31st was the date the TPR was filed.
He has filed nothing in the TPR file that we're hearing today in 07523.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll call my first witness, Your Honor, and that would be Ms. Brownlee, please. Where are you employed?
Henry County Defects.
What do you do for the department?
Foster care case manager.
How long have you been employed with Henry County Defects?
6 years.
You are an old hand already.
I was going to say, she's probably eligible for retirement.
Just about. She'll be right behind Ms. Long.
I wish.
Did you work for the Department of Family and Children's Services in any capacity prior to coming to Henry County Defects?
No, sir.
And during the time that you've been working with Henry County Defects, has that always been as a foster care case manager?
Yes, sir.
And are you currently the case manager for the child in this case, Rowan?
Yes, sir.
And Your Honor, I'm just going to ask Mr. Trimble and Ms. Schrock. She's been tendered as expert witness before, and that's what I intend to do in the area of child welfare. If they want me to go through it or offer, I'll be glad to do it. If not, I would just ask that she be tendered into evidence, be tendered in as an expert witness in the area of child welfare at this time.
Either of you care to voir dire the witness?
No, sir.
No, Your Honor.
Are you prepared to stipulate she's an expert in that field and can testify under the rules?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, should be considered an expert in the field of child welfare and be allowed to testify accordingly.
I appreciate that. Ms. Bromley, how long have you been the case manager for Rowan?
I believe from November of 22.
Of November of last year?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, of 21. I'm sorry.
Okay. And this child has just, in fact, came into care in November 16th of 2021. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So you've been the, once the child came into care, you've been the only case manager for the child during that time?
Well, outside of the CPS caseworker, I've been the only foster care case manager.
But you never were out on leave or anything like that where you had another case manager taking over?
No, sir.
And the reasons this child came into care included the mother having abandoned the child here in Henry County at the birth of the child, the mother's whereabouts being unknown when the child was ready for discharge, mom being homeless, having a history of substance abuse, and that the putative biological father of the child was unknown and not having legitimated the child. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this child was born at Piedmont Henry Hospital. Was that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that hospital located in Henry County, Georgia?
Yes, sir.
And was the child located at Piedmont Henry Hospital at the time that the department took custody of that child?
Yes, sir.
Was a case plan established as to the mother and as to the putative father in this case?
Yes, sir.
And under the mother's case plan, she was required to undergo her various assessments for parental fitness, substance abuse, psychological, and CCFA, and follow the recommendations from the assessments on those. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Was the father required to undergo DNA testing and, if shown to be the biological father, to bring appropriate legal proceedings to legitimate the child?
He was, but we were never provided any accurate contact information for the father.
Was the mother, as part of her case plan, required to submit to random drug and alcohol screens as requested by the department?
Yes, sir.
Was the mother, as part of her case plan, required to visit with the child and maintain a parent-child bond with the child?
Yes, sir.
Was she also required to obtain and maintain stable employment, source of income, and provide proof of that to the department?
Yes, sir.
And was she also to cooperate with the department and its providers and meet face-to-face with you or the department's case manager at least once per month?
Yes.
And then the last thing under her case plan was that she was to notify the department and the court of any change in address or phone numbers within 48 hours of that change. Do you recall that as well for the mother?
Yes.
And the initial permanency plan was concurrent plans of reunification and non-reunification termination of parental rights adoption as to the mother. Is that right?
Yes.
And why was the permanency plan for the mother made concurrent plans at the initiation of this particular case?
Due to her no longer being able to be located or being able to be reached, the department was unsuccessful in keeping in contact with Ms. Taylor.
Did the mother have any other biological children?
She did.
How many other children did the mother report having to you?
It was reported to me actually by her mother. Ms. Taylor never told me, but it was reported she has 2 other kids, a boy and a girl.
And do you know why the mother does not have the custody of those children?
From my understanding, grandmother has raised them since they were little due to mom's substance abuse issues.
Are you aware as to whether or not the mother's parental rights to those children were involuntarily terminated?
Yes, sir, they were.
And do you know in what state that was?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Indianapolis.
Indiana?
And yes, sir.
And is that one of the reasons that the department also asked for concurrent plans at the time that the case plan was initiated?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to start with the biological father or the putative father of the child. During the time that you had contact with the mother, and let me just point out, ask you before I get to that, is the mother of this child Erica Dawn Taylor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you have contact during the time that you were the case manager with Ms. Taylor, the mother?
Yes, I did have contact with her. My last contact with Ms. Taylor was December the 1st, 2022. And the contact before that would have been March of 22.
But I'm saying since the child came into care in November of 2021, you have had an opportunity to discuss this case with Ms. Taylor, the mother?
Yes, sir.
All right. During any of your discussions, did you discuss the identity of the biological father with the mother?
I did.
And what, if anything, did she report to you as to the identity of the biological father?
She reported that she believed that it was between 2 different people. She wasn't for sure who his father was, pretty much what she told me.
And did she identify any of those individuals as residing here in the state of Georgia?
No.
Did she identify where those 2 prospective biological fathers might, did she ever give you an address for either of them?
No, sir.
All right. Since you've been the case manager and since the removal of this child in November of 2021, has anyone claiming to be the biological father of this child contacted you?
No, sir.
Are you aware of anyone claiming to be the biological father of this child having any contact or visitation with this child since the child's birth in November of 2021?
No, sir.
The child was born in November, right? Or for some reason I got it in my head that he may have been born in October.
That's correct. He was born in October. I can't recall the date, but it is in October.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking here, October 26th or the 26th of 2021, according to the birth certificate that we tendered into evidence. But again, since the child's birth, has anyone visited with the child that claimed to be the father or had contact with the child?
No, sir.
Are you aware of anyone claiming to be the biological father of the child having filed a petition with this court or any other court seeking to legitimate this child?
No, sir.
Are you aware of there being any child support having been paid by anyone claiming to be the biological father of this child to the department?
No, sir.
Are you aware of anyone claiming to be the biological father of this child having provided any financial support to the Beardens where the child is currently placed?
No.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the mom's case plan now. Did the mother at one point in time undergo her CCFA and drug and alcohol assessment?
So she did complete a substance abuse assessment and a parental fitness assessment. She did not complete the CCFA. The agency did contact her multiple times, but failed to reach her, so it was not completed.
Okay. Did the mother undergo a drug and alcohol assessment with New Heights on or about August 8th of 2022?
Yes.
All right. And to your recollection, was the case plan as to the mother established by this court back in January of 2022?
I believe
The
so.
reason that it took the mother approximately 8 months from the time that the case plan was established in January of 2022 to August of 2022 for that assessment to be done. Would you know what the reason was?
Yes, she just would know. We didn't have an actual working number for her nor address, so I was unable to make contact.
Ms. Brownlee, I'm going to stop you right there. Don't say she or her, just identify the person that you're talking about as the mother or Ms. Taylor, if you would, just for the record.
Okay. Ms. Taylor was unable to be reached by the department due to not having a working cell number nor address. I did end up finding a Facebook for Ms. Taylor, and that's how I made initial contact, which is then I asked her if she would be willing to work a case plan for Rowan. And at that time she agreed and she said yes. And that's when I started sending out the referrals and getting everything started for her. And then that's when she disappeared again. But that's why I was not able to reach her up until then.
Okay. So you were saying that you had only been able to contact the mother through Facebook Messenger?
Yes, sir.
A copy of the substance abuse assessment was provided to the council and to the court and has been marked as defects number 5. And I think I sent that to you as well. Do you have that document in front of you? Is that a true and accurate copy of the substance abuse assessment, written substance abuse assessment, I should say, that you received from New Heights?
Yes, sir.
Has that been altered in any way?
No, sir.
Your Honor, I'd have to tender in the drug and alcohol assessment with the proviso that the court check and make sure that pages 10 and 11 are actually on there. I emailed those to Ms. Gaskill last Friday when I realized I inadvertently left those off. So you should have 11 pages for defects 5.
I have 5.5. And then I have 5.5 more.
You're saying you have 5.5 pages?
And 5.5 more.
Okay. So
11 pages.
Your Honor, you know as well as I do that if you start doing that, I'm going to completely lose my track. But so you have all 11 pages. I just want to make sure.
I have 11 pages.
Okay.
I'm just checking to see if you're awake.
So I'm tendering in defects number 5, Your Honor, and ask that that be tendered into the record and made part of the into evidence and made part of the record. With regards to the assessment on the drug and alcohol assessment, the mother was recommended to basically in pertinent part to do medication management, outpatient mental health counseling, substance abuse treatment, domestic violence assessment, anger management, individual therapy, stable housing, stable employment, and visit and bond with the child. Was that your recollection of the recommendations from that assessment, Ms. Brownlee?
Yes, sir.
Did Ms. Taylor, the mother, ever complete any of those recommendations?
No, sir.
And then on the same date, Ms. Taylor also did a parental fitness assessment, August 8th of 2022 with New Heights as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Your Honor, again, I've given copies of that to counsel and to Ms. Brownlee, and the court should have that one. That's been marked as defects exhibit number 6. With the recommendations from that assessment included that the mother undergo a psychological exam, a psychiatric evaluation, appropriate mental health treatment, a domestic violence assessment, a trauma assessment, I believe, parenting classes, individual therapy, stable housing, stable employment, and meet the child's medical needs. Do you recall those as being the recommendations from that particular assessment?
Yes.
Did Ms. Taylor, the mother, ever complete any of those recommendations?
No.
Did Ms. Taylor ever undergo a psychological evaluation as was made part of her case plan?
No.
And then there was the recommendations from the August 8th parental fitness assessment that again recommended a psychological evaluation. After August 8th of 2022, did she ever undergo that psychological?
No, sir.
And you had talked about the efforts that you'd made to try to schedule those appointments. Did you ever make a referral to the mother for a psychological?
I did.
Who was that with?
New Heights as well.
Do you recall when you initially made that referral to for Ms. Taylor for a psychological evaluation?
I sent it in the beginning of August of 2022 with the rest of the referrals.
All right, so my question is then she had a case plan that required her to do a psychological in January of 2022. And then she did her parental fitness assessment in August of 2022. So from January till August, did you make a referral for a psychological as to the mother?
Yes. I have a reply from New Heights back in. So the only email that I have that I sent referrals would be from, I sent some in August and then also in January as well.
Okay, so referrals for her psychological in August of 2022 and January of 2022?
Correct. I just found it.
Okay. The mother was also required to undergo the psychiatric trauma assessment, domestic violence assessment. Did she ever do any of those 3 assessments?
No, sir. The agency actually tried to do them via Zoom or either over the phone for Ms. Taylor, but she never would follow up to schedule any assessment.
Did you make a referral for a provider for those 3 assessments?
Yes, for the parental, I did a parental, a substance abuse, and a CCFA referral.
Okay. What about a psychiatric, domestic violence, and trauma assessment?
Oh, no, sir.
About the random drug screens, has Ms. Taylor submitted to random drug screens as requested by the department or its providers during the time of this, since this case had a case plan established to her in January of 2022?
No, sir.
So she's never done any drug screen.
No, sir.
And what was the barrier to getting the department to be able to drug screen Ms. Taylor?
Unable to get a valid address for her or for her to I was unable to communicate with her to set up the screens.
So has Ms. Taylor ever had 12 consecutive months of negative drug screens during the time that this case has been pending?
No, sir.
Right. Next was that Ms. Taylor, the mother, was to visit with the child as scheduled and establish or maintain a parent-child bond, provide at least 24 hours notice to the department of any canceled visit. When was the last time that she actually had a face-to-face visit with this child, if any?
She has not had any physical face-to-face visits with her.
So she has not seen this child face to face since the child was born at the hospital?
No, sir. Now, are we counting virtual? Would they be considered face to face?
No, I'm talking about physical.
Oh, no. So no, sir. She has not.
Yeah. And has she had any kind of virtual visits or phone contact or anything similar to that with the child since the child came into care in November of 2021?
Yes, sir. She has.
And do you know about how many of those visits have taken place?
Yes, I have 3 noted in my records that she did do.
And how did those take place?
They took place via Zoom or Facebook video chat with the foster, with Miss Bearden.
Okay. Did you ever have a chance to observe any of those visits, those virtual visits?
No, sir, I didn't get to observe them for myself, but I did speak and then with Miss Bearden, who did observe those visits.
I'll ask her about that in a minute. And do you know when the last of these virtual you said there were 3 virtual visits during the entire case. When was the last one?
The last one I have noted was October 8th, 2022. And no, I'm sorry. No, the last one will be New Year's. Miss Bearden reported, so that will be December 31st of 22. And then the one before that will be October 8th, 22.
Okay. You said October 31st?
October 8th.
I mean, December 31st. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, December.
Okay. All right. And in your experience as a case manager and having been working as a foster care case manager for the Department of Family and Children Services for 6 years, before I get back to that, how old is this child currently?
Rowan is 2.
Okay. You'll be 3 coming this November,
Yes,
October, I mean.
yes.
Okay. And is, in your opinion, as a case manager with the Department of Family and Children Services and having been the case manager for this child and having worked for the department for 6 years, is virtual visitation appropriate for the mother to have maintained or established a parent-child bond with this child?
No, sir, not at all.
To your knowledge, has the mother and this child ever had any kind of physical interactions with one another?
No, sir.
You said there were 3 virtual visits. That's all that Rowan has had with his mother during the entire case?
Yes, sir.
All right. The mother was next required to obtain and maintain stable employment, stable source of housing, and provide the department with proof of that. Has Ms. Taylor ever provided you with proof of stable employment?
No, sir.
Has she ever reported working anywhere?
No, sir.
Has the mother ever provided the department with proof of stable housing?
No, sir.
Since this child was removed from the mother's custody in November of 2021, has she ever given you an address that she is alleged to be living at?
No, sir.
Were you able to meet with Ms. Taylor, the mother, on a monthly basis, at least once per month?
No, sir.
Had Ms. Taylor notified you of her changes in address or phone numbers within 48 hours?
No.
When was the last time that you had any contact with Ms. Taylor, the mother?
So the last contact I had with Ms. Taylor was on 12/1/2022, and that was via email.
That was via what?
Via email.
What efforts that you've made to try to reach out and make contact with Ms. Taylor, the mother?
Every month I send an email to the email address provided by Ms. Taylor that she provided to me due to her reporting that she no longer has a phone because it was ran over. And she can only make contact with me at this time via email. So I sent emails to her monthly And then I also reached out to her via Facebook Messenger. Her name on Facebook is Erica Taylor, Miss Taylor. And my other efforts, I did have another email address that I also had from New Heights that they provided, and I also sent an email to that email address. She never responds from that one, but I did get her to respond to me again on 12/1/22. She did respond to my email that day, and after that, she has no longer responded.
And what were you reaching her out to on 12/1/2022 about?
So I was reaching out just to see if she had a working number or if she could provide me an address and if she still was willing to work a case plan or what was her plans with Rowan.
During the time that you had, the department has had custody of this child, has the mother provided any kind of financial support to the child, to the department?
No, sir.
Are you aware of the mother having provided any kind of gifts for the child's birthday or Christmas or anything like that?
No, sir.
You're not aware, or she's not done that?
No, she has not done that.
Does Rowan have any special needs?
No, sir.
Where is Rowan currently placed?
He is placed with the Beardens located in South Carolina.
All right. And how long has Rowan been in that placement?
He has been there since June 18th, 2022.
All right. Where was Rowan placed prior to that?
He was placed in a Henry County foster home located in McDonough, Georgia.
And what was the reason for the change in placement from the Henry County foster home to the Beardens?
We found them. We found that they were fit to kin, and they wanted to be a long-term placement for Rowan.
Okay. Are they actually biologically related to Ms. Taylor in any way,
No, sir.
or by marriage or anything like that?
No, sir.
How do they have a relationship with Ms. Taylor, to your knowledge?
So Miss Bearden, if I'm not mistaken, is really close to Erica Taylor's mom. I think she's been a long-term family friend, really close with the family.
In essence, Ms. Bearden has sort of been an aunt to the mother, Ms. Taylor.
Yes.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to observe Rowan in the placement with Mr. and Ms. Bearden?
I sure have, yes, numerous of times.
All right. Has that been in person or virtual?
So when I initially placed Rowan, so I observed that day, but ever since he's been placed there, I've only been doing virtual visits with them.
Okay.
But I also make contact with the caseworker that's located in South Carolina too.
Okay. And when you've had an opportunity to observe Rowan in his placement with Mr. and Ms. Bearden, and obviously it's just virtual, does Rowan appear to have bonded with Mr. and Ms. Bearden?
Yes, very much so.
And what makes you say that? What have you observed that makes you believe that the child has bonded with Mr. and Ms. Bearden?
He's very, very, very happy to, every time I get on the camera, he shows, he's laughing, he's giggling, he's right up under Miss Bearden and Mr. Bearden. He's usually reaching out for them when I'm talking to, if they're trying to get me to talk to him. I've even spoke to the daycare teacher and she's let me know how close that he has a very good bond with Miss Bearden and Mr. Bearden. He often cries when Miss Bearden is not around, but I think he's getting better with that. So yes, I've noticed that they have a great bond. Is
Rowan verbal?
Yes, he's cool and he's trying to talk. The last video call, I think he called his ABCs for me, if I'm not mistaken. He's saying, he's definitely thriving. I can't remember yet if he's actually saying English. I know he's saying mama, I believe. I might be wrong, Miss Bearden, correct me. But I think he is talking, Matthias, yes. So I'll say it.
Are there any other minor children in the home with Rowan and Mr. and Ms. Bearden?
Not at this time.
Okay.
He does attend daycare though, so he's around.
Has the department attempted to locate relatives for possible placement of Rowan since he came into care?
Yes, sir.
Has the department been able to locate, other than the Beardens being fictive kin, has the department actually been able to locate any relatives who are fit, willing, or able to take the child into their home?
No, sir, not at this time.
Are you aware of any substantial property that this child might stand to inherit from the mother, Ms. Taylor?
Not that, no, sir. No, sir.
Are you aware of any substantial property that the child may stand to inherit from his unknown biological father?
No, sir.
And is the department at this time, well, before I get to that, do you have any reason to believe during the your involvement with Ms. Taylor in this case that she is able to remedy the causes of dependency which brought this child into care?
No, sir.
And why do you say that?
Just due to the miscommunication with her and her not never really being able to keep in communication with me, and the minimal conversations that I have had with her, she just does not seem to be consistent and really shows any actual effort in wanting to be here for them.
Has Ms. Taylor shown you any significant effort to comply with her case plan goals from January of 2022?
No, sir.
Has she made any kind of significant progress on any of the case plan goals from January of 2022?
No, sir.
Do you have any reason to believe if you were giving it any additional time to work her case plan that you could in fact make substantial progress towards her case plan goals and achieve reunification with this child?
No, sir.
Has Ms. Taylor exhibited any, in your experiences, has she exhibited any meaningful interest in this child since he came into the department's custody in November of 2021?
No, sir.
And is based on that, is the department asking at this time that the court terminate the parental rights of Ms. Taylor?
Yes, sir.
Is the department also asking at this time that the court terminate any parental rights that the biological father or putative father of this child may have?
Yes, sir.
And is that based on the putative father having abandoned the child by not having sought to legitimate the child in part?
Yes, sir.
And if the court were to terminate this child's parental rights as to the mother and the putative father, are the Beardens a prospective adoptive placement for the child?
Yes, sir.
Have you had that conversation with them about adopting Rowan if he were being made available for adoption?
Yes, sir.
And are they financially able to care for the child?
Yes.
Are they in a position to meet the child's medical needs and things of that nature, educational and so forth that the child may have?
Yes.
And this child has been in the department's temporary custody at this point for approximately 19 months, I believe.
Yes.
No other questions for Ms. Brownlee, Your Honor?
Mr. Trimble, any questions?
Just one, Your Honor. Ms. Bramley, you said that you had some contact with Miss Taylor and that she met with the child on December 31st last year. Have you received any other contact from Miss Taylor requesting further visitation with the child?
I have not, but the Miss Bearden has. She will reach out directly to Miss Bearden via Facebook, and Miss Bearden reported that she has asked for pictures and videos of Rowan.
Do you happen to know how recently she's reached out to Miss Bearden?
I believe Miss Bearden can she answer that when she puts her. I don't have the actual date that she reached out to Miss Bearden. The last screenshot Miss Bearden sent me was on June 5th from Miss Taylor. So I do have that date.
So that was last week?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions.
Ms. Schrock?
I thought I would just correct either. I may have some incorrect information or maybe I heard wrong, but I thought I would just correct the child's age. Rowan was born on October 26th of 2021. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so he turned 2 this past October, and then I'm sorry. Yeah, he turned 1 this past, see, I can't do the math either. He turned 1 this past October, and then he'll be 2 this coming October. Is that right?
That is correct. You're right. That's my mistake. I'm sorry.
Well, I attempted to mess it up again, so thank you for that. And then you testified that the Beardens have the ability to be an adoptive home for this child, and you testified that Rowan has a strong bond with the Beardens. So based on all of that, is it your opinion that the Beardens would be an appropriate adoptive home for Rowan?
Definitely. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. No other questions.
Any redirect?
No, sir.
Okay. Call your next witness.
Your Honor, call Ms. Bearden. Just explain a little bit, and Ms. Brownlee kind of covered that. How are you or related or know Ms. Taylor, the mother of this child?
So I am friends with the grandmother, Teresa.
And where does she live?
She lives in Ohio. She asked us to get involved in this case.
Okay. And does she have Ms. Taylor's other two biological children, to your knowledge, in her custody?
She does.
And did you live in Ohio with the maternal grandmother at some point? I mean, not live in the same home, but in the same city or neighborhood?
No, sir.
Okay. And that was in Ohio, you said?
Yes,
Okay. I think Ms. Brownlee had said Indiana, but it's actually Ohio.
it is.
All right. Okay. And how long has Rowan been living with you?
A year this week.
So June of 2022 to now?
That's correct.
Okay. Has anyone claiming to be the biological father of this child contacted you since Rowan has lived with you?
No,
Has anyone claiming to be the biological father of this child had any visitation or contact with the child since he has lived with you?
no,
With regards to the mother, Ms. Taylor, since the child has lived with you in June of 2022, has Ms. Taylor had any face-to-face physical, in the same room or in the same house visits with the child?
no, sir.
Has Ms. Taylor had any virtual visitation with the child?
She has.
How many virtual visits has she had in the year that Rowan has been living with you?
So I've been looking back through my Facebook Messenger and I counted 5 virtual calls that I've had with her.
And are they all over Facebook Messenger?
Yes,
Were there any outside of Facebook, like through Zoom or MS Teams or something like that?
no, sir.
And describe when those visits take place. I mean, what happens?
I talk a lot. I share with Erica the milestones, things that Rowan's doing. He runs around. I follow him around with my phone, and every once in a while she'll ask questions, but it's basically just a time for me to fill her in and for her to observe him.
Is there any interactions between Ms. Taylor, the mother, and the child directly?
No, sir.
When was the last time that she had that Facebook Messenger contact with the child?
The last one that I have is October 22nd of 2022.
Okay.
She has reached out other than video calls since then.
Do you have any idea where Ms. Taylor is living?
I don't.
Did Ms. Taylor know about today's court hearing?
I have not mentioned anything to her about that, but it's my understanding that she was advised of the court hearing
Do you know how?
from the caseworker, from Jasmine.
And Ms. Brownlee testified that there was some recent attempt to contact Rowan or you on June 5th. Is that correct?
I sent a text message to Ms. Brownlee on June 5th. Her contact with me was on May 28th.
The mother's?
I'm sorry, yes, Erica's contact with me was on May 28th.
And what was that? Did she text you or call you or email you or what?
She sent me a message on Facebook Messenger just asking me how Rowan is.
And you said 5/28,
Correct.
and that was this year, correct?
Yes, 2023.
Is Rowan verbal at this point?
As much as a 19-month-old can be, he is learning to talk and he's saying new words every day, surprising us every day.
What does he call you?
Mama,
What does he call Mr. Bearden?
Dada.
What does he refer to Ms. Taylor, if at all, when he sees her?
He hasn't said any name for her. At the time, the last video visit, he wasn't really talking.
Okay. Since the child has been with you, Has he gone in for any kind of like well checks or gone to the hospital or had any kind of medical appointments that he needed to have?
Yes, sir.
Has Ms. Taylor, the mother, participated or been involved in any of those?
No, she is not.
If you have a medical appointment for the child, have you reached out to Ms. Taylor and said, hey, we're going to the doctor on such and such a date. You know, if you want to come along or be involved, here's the date and time and place.
No, sir. I honestly haven't mentioned that to her.
Right. Have you received any financial support for the care of Rowan from the mother?
Not from the mother.
Have you received any financial support for the care of Rowan from anybody claiming to be the biological father of the child?
No, sir.
Does Rowan appear to have bonded with you and Mr. Bearden?
Yes, he definitely has.
And can you give the court some examples of what leads you to believe that the child has bonded with you and Mr. Bearden?
So one example, taking him to church yesterday, he cried when we left him in the nursery. He also, when he sees us coming in the daycare window, he will try to get to us as quickly as he can from wherever he is in that daycare room. He will ask about Dada. If Dada is not home, Dada, Dada, he'll point to the door. And if I'm not in the room, he will say, Mama, Mama, Mama.
All right. And if this court were to grant the department's petition for termination of parental rights as the mother and the putative father of this child, are you and Mr. Bearden interested in adopting Rowan?
We're more than interested. Yes.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And are you and Mr. Bearden, well, I should ask, are either of you employed?
Yes, I am employed. My husband is as well.
Yes.
And are you in a position to financially meet Rowan's needs if he were to be made available for adoption by?
Absolutely.
During the time that Rowan has lived with you, he's had at least one birthday and he's had Christmas for 2022. Did Ms. Taylor, the mother, provide you with any gifts for Rowan during either his birthday or for Christmas?
No, sir.
Did you send him a card or anything?
No.
Did she have a virtual visit with him on his birthday or Christmas?
She sent me, Erica sent me a message the evening of his birthday at about 8:00, wishing him a happy birthday, to please give him a hug. On Christmas, I did not hear from her.
But she didn't try to set up like a virtual visit to be able to see Rowan and wish him a happy first birthday?
No, sir.
Or to on Christmas to kind of, wish him a Merry Christmas, have a virtual visit with him?
No, sir.
During the contact that you've had with Miss Taylor, has she ever given you a reason as to why she can't come out to some? I mean, y'all are not the farthest state we've ever had kids placed away. You're right neighbor to Georgia. Has she ever given you any reason as to why she can't come out and see the child?
Erica's not ever given me a reason that she didn't want to see him. And I haven't asked her to come see him. I have taken him to see his paternal grandparents.
In Ohio?
Yes, sir.
Paternal or maternal?
Excuse me, maternal. You're right. Sorry, Judge.
Thanks. That's okay.
And have you ever had an address that Ms. Taylor told you she was living at?
No, sir.
What about, has she been consistent about giving you a phone number where you can reach her at? Is it easy to reach Ms. Taylor?
She's never given me a phone number. I am able, she's actually on Facebook right now. I'm always able to reach her through Facebook.
Okay. All right, Your Honor, I don't have any other questions for Ms. Bearden.
Other counsel have any questions for Ms. Bearden?
No, sir.
All right,
Just a few, Your Honor.
call your next witness.
No other witnesses from the department, Your Honor.
All right,
Your Honor, I did have questions for Ms. Bearden.
go ahead.
You said that you're always able to reach Ms. Taylor by Facebook. How often do you have contact with her?
I only have contact with her when she reaches out to me. And when she reaches out to me, I respond to her same day.
Okay, but how often does she reach out to you on average?
It's random.
Okay. Has she expressed any interest in speaking with Rowan when she reaches out?
She has not asked to do a video call with him.
Okay.
So originally, just for clarification, I was the one that started the video calls with her. Because that's something that Miss Brownlee and I talked about, and she gave me the green light to do that. So I reached out to Miss Taylor and asked her if she wanted to see Rowan and to have a video visit with him. And we set up weekly calls, but it got to the point where she would say that she was sick or she had just woken up. And so I, at that point, allowed her to just reach out to me when she was ready to talk to him.
All right. I think that's all I've got for questions.
All right. All right. Either you or Mr. Trimble, either you or Ms. Schrock have any witnesses?
No, sir.
No, Your Honor.
The evidence is closed. I've got defects exhibits 1 through 6 have been admitted without objection. They're now part of the record. The testimony that we've heard. You have a recommendation you want to make, Ms. Schrock?
Yes, sir. I would ask the court to grant the TPR petition. Rowan care since his birth. He's been abandoned by his mother and any unknown putative father. He has bonded and thrived in the Bearden's home and is doing very well. And he has the opportunity to achieve permanency through adoption, which would be in his best interest. The mother has been afforded more than ample time to work a case plan, and she's failed to make little to no progress has been made on the case plan. So I would ask the court to grant the petition, terminate parental rights so that he can achieve permanency through adoption.
All right, thank you. Either of you counsel care to make any argument?
Your Honor, from the department, we would ask that the court terminate the parental rights of the putative fathers based on the fact that the putative father and anyone else claiming an interest of this child has failed to file a petition to legitimate the child within the statutory required time frame, that the putative fathers have further abandoned the child by not having any contact with the child, there being no parent-child bond between any putative father and the child, and the putative father not having provided any kind of support for the child since the child came into care in November of 2021. As to the mother, Your Honor, the department contends that the mother has abandoned the child by willfully failing to work her case plan for a period of in excess of 6 months. This case plan was established in January of 2022. The mother has made next to no progress other than having undergone 2 of the assessments that she was supposed to do with the parental fitness and the substance abuse assessment. The CCFA, as Ms. Brownlee indicated, was done by the mother apparently partially, but she never completed that assessment. The mother has abandoned the child further by having failed to establish or maintain a meaningful parent-child bond with the child. You heard the testimony and evidence presented that the mother has had anywhere between 3 to 5 visits with this child since the child came into care in November of 2021. And that those visits have all been virtual. The mother has not actually had any physical face-to-face contact with this child, that the mother has exhibited little to no interest in this child. In fact, you heard from Ms. Bearden that the actual visitation that this mother has with the child was initiated by her reaching out to the mother, that the mother has made next to no efforts to be involved with this child, which is also further evidenced by the fact that the mother didn't contact the child for his first birthday, that she didn't contact the child for his, for his first real Christmas. Now, obviously, he's only 2 years, going to be 2 years old, but still, the mother has not shown any interest in the child, and that the department would contend that that's further ground for abandonment, which is all part of her conduct indicating an intent on her part to forego her parental duties or relinquish her parental claims with the child. So as to her abandonment, Your Honor, she's failed to communicate with this child on a meaningful basis for a period of in excess of 6 months. She's failed to maintain regular visitation for a period in excess of 6 months. She's also failed to be involved in any hearings involved in this child for over 6 months. I can't even actually remember the last time the mother was involved with a hearing on this. It may have been when we were here for the final disposition hearing in January, but for the last several review hearings, she's not even participated in those. And that the evidence is clear in this case that she's made, as I said, little to no progress on her court-ordered case plan, which has been pending before this court since January of 2022. This child has now been in care for approximately 19 months. The child is bonded with the Beardens. They are, in essence, the only family that this child has known. And this child has been subject to aggravated circumstances by both the mother and the father based on their abandonment. And we would ask that this court terminate the child's parental rights and place custody of the child with the department for purposes of pursuing adoption for this child.
Thank you. Anything from you, Mr. Trimble?
We haven't made contact with the mother thus far, despite several attempts. So not knowing what exactly her interest is, we don't feel that there's a closing to be made at this time.
All right. All right. The court finds from the evidence by clear and convincing evidence that the child is dependent, the condition is likely to continue unless remedied. It would be contrary to the child's welfare to continue languishing in foster care, even though she's in good care with the current foster parents. She needs permanency. Both parents have abandoned the child and are unwilling or unable to secure stability in their own lives so that they can properly parent this child. We'll find it's in the best interest of the child that both parents' parental rights be terminated to facilitate permanency for this child through adoption. You can take an order to that effect, circulate it to counsel for the parties, and send it to my office.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. and Ms. Bearded, I appreciate your efforts in taking care of this child. Good luck in the future.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Y'all take care. We'll conclude the hearing. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Your Honor.